Back in the day, folks used to dance around a campfire just to summon some three-eyed evil entity. Then the world went completely off the rails. Everyday objects turned into demons, and spirits decided to do their own thing, and the souls that couldn't find peace, they ended up turning into straight-up monsters and spooky apparitions. Right in the middle of this hot mess, wandering God showed up to try and knock some sense back into the world, literally. But chaos took over in 108 Forbidden Lands, and evil just sprouted up like weeds. Cut to modern times, in a pitch-black room, a girl is totally out of breath, calling the cops to report something crazy. She's absolutely panicking and begging for help, while the dispatcher is doing her best to keep her from totally losing it. The girl makes it clear she's not dealing with a burglar, but something way worse, a pair of embroidered red shoes. She explains she bought this creepy antique on a trip, and ever since then, her life has been an absolute nightmare. She says that every single day she dreams about a ghost in a red dress just staring her down, without saying a single word. The worst part? With every dream, this thing got closer and closer until it was practically nose to nose with her. Crying her eyes out, she confesses she even tried tossing those shoes into a fire. But the cursed things just won't vanish, and there they are again, right next to her bed, like they just magically popped out of thin air. She bolts into her closet and begs for a rescue, while the police scramble to figure out her address. Hiding behind her clothes, she pleads for help, but out of nowhere, the phone starts throwing major static. The line goes dead quiet, and on the other end, someone is just chilling there, listening to her breathe. All of a sudden, the voice on the phone drops to this super creepy tone and whispers, "Found you." The woman chucks her phone across the room and books it out of the closet, screaming for her life. In full-blown panic mode, she slams her bedroom door shut as hard as she can, trying to barricade herself in. But the very next second, there's a loud thud coming right from the door she just locked. Taking a closer look, the ghost reveals a seriously horrifying face, fully decked out in a wedding dress. Rocking some heavy red makeup, it looked like this bizarre little ceremony was about to kick off. And under the moonlight, we see the girl completely lifeless in her chair, looking twisted in the worst way possible. Down at her apartment complex, the vibe is just pure chaos, with cop cars and ambulance sirens lighting up the whole block. Sweeping the sidewalk, our MC is grumbling about the racket and already knows today is going to be an absolute drag. He remembers his grandpa was holding out for a big payout from the neighborhood getting demolished, but the old man passed away before seeing a dime. Then, spotting a covered stretcher being rolled out of the building, the MC realizes things just got super serious. Right then, the MC hears a weird creak coming from the wooden front door of his own house. He rushes inside, thinking some random creep decided to break into his pad. Once inside, he lets out a big sigh of relief, seeing he's totally alone, figuring he's just being way too paranoid. But then he spots something sketchy on the family altar. This golden plaque that used to be knocked over is suddenly standing straight up. The MC picks the thing up and reads an inscription about some guy named Captain C. Lee. Right on cue, the image of a massive, seriously ticked-off tiger materializes right behind him. Spooked, he wonders if this hand-me-down from his grandpa is actually some kind of holy artifact. Spotting the last name Wei on the back, our MC realizes this heirloom really is a family treasure. Getting super hyped, he holds the plaque up and yells that his ancestors must have been absolute beasts. But he gets a little too pumped and ends up slicing his finger on the sharp edge of the metal. A drop of blood trickles down and lands right on a random piece of paper sitting on the desk. Out of nowhere, it turns into a glowing scroll asking for help to hunt down an evil spirit. Wrapped up in this totally sinister vibe, the MC recognizes those exact red shoes in the drawing. He decides to look it up online to see if he can figure out what kind of freaky stuff is going on. He hops on his PC, but all he gets are silly bedtime stories and targeted ads for shoe stores. The MC starts piecing it together, guessing the plaque reacted because of the tragedy that hit his neighbor. Next thing he knows, this thick fog rolls in right out of the floorboards, leaving him completely clueless. He walks over to the door, spots a red light, and brushes it off as just another cop car driving by. But the second he steps outside, the fog swallows everything whole, and his jaw practically hits the floor. Realizing his entire neighborhood just vanished, the MC wonders where in the world he ended up. With his heart pounding out of his chest, he looks around, trying to make sense of this total madness. Out of nowhere, he finds himself in this ancient courtyard, walking up to a tree where someone is just waiting for him. When he gets closer, our guy comes face to face with that same bride in red, just chilling inside a giant cauldron. Lifting her head, the creature flashes this terrifying face and straight up calls him her husband. With her arms wide open, the The ghost bride asks if he has any idea how long she's been waiting for him. Then the spooky phantom lunges at him like a maniac, complaining about how long her supposed true love took to get there. But right at that split second, the tiger spirit pops back out and lets loose a massive roar right in her face. The noise shatters the illusion and the MC wakes up in his bed feeling completely wiped out. He checks his phone, sees it's 3 in the morning, and has zero clue how he passed out so hard. Scratching his head, he mutters that the nightmare felt way too real to just be in his head. Out of the blue, he gets an email notification, right as this super weird puddle starts forming on the floor. He thinks it's pretty sketchy getting a message at this ungodly hour of the night. Opening the text, he sees a job offer from a museum and thinks the gig sounds almost too good to be true. The next day, he rolls up to the spot, complaining that his GPS totally crapped out on him during the drive. The MC doesn't see a single soul around and just wanders the halls looking for his new boss. All of a sudden, an old dude rocking glasses in a pipe just materializes behind a desk without making a peep. Apologizing for the scare, the man says he just needs to clear up one little detail with him. Giving him this sketchy look, the old guy stares the MC down and asks if he's afraid of ghosts. The MC chuckles, saying that stuff isn't real and that he's a pretty practical dude. But deep down, he can totally sense the heavy vibes in there, so he hides the golden plaque behind his back. Gripping the artifact tight, he stays on high alert for any nasty surprises that might pop up. The old man sizes the kid up, thinking that since he's so young, he's probably overflowing with good energy. But the boss quickly brushes it off, figuring the kid walked into this mess entirely on his own. Getting up from his chair, the guy tells him to tag along so he can show him the ropes. They step into this dark hallway, with the only things lighting the way are some creepy paper lanterns. Noticing the weird temperature drop, the MC points out that it's literally freezing enough in there to chill you to the bone. Glancing at a bunch of paper dolls, he mentions that they look seriously unsettling. Reaching a bigger hall, the kid admits the museum is actually pretty huge. Then he spots an open can of soda and complains that the drink has already gone completely flat. Looking kind of bummed out, the old man replies that this place was his son's greatest passion. The guy points toward the back, explaining that it's the living quarters, and the MC decides to go snoop around. Noticing the old man hesitate, he can totally tell his new boss isn't thrilled about that idea. Telling the guy to just chill out, the kid convinces the boss to let him head in by himself. Feeling super suspicious, he thinks to himself that a job offer sent at 3 in the morning is definitely a red flag. He makes a deal with himself. If the tiger plaque senses any bad juju, he's out of there in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, the boss is thinking about how this kid is already the 4th guy he's hired in just 1 month. He reflects on the fact that it wasn't just the previous hires seeing things. He's seen some messed up stuff here himself. He remembers hearing desperate pounding on the doors in the dead of night. And don't forget the visions of red stuff just oozing down every single wall. Not to mention that one time a totally bizarre blanket actually decided to chase him down. Suddenly, the MC walks out shivering, completely wrapped up like a burrito in a giant comforter. The boss practically has a heart attack, but our guy explains he just grabbed the blanket so he wouldn't freeze to death. Catching his breath, the old man figures the kid is just a little bit dense. Explaining the ground rules, he tells the MC he just needs to open up the museum to officially snag the gate. Signing the dotted line, the kid figures the place must be safe, since his magic plaque hasn't glowed at all. With everything settled, the boss says he's heading out and the kid just gives him a thumbs up. Once he's in his car, the old man calls out to give him one last warning. He says that if he wants to quit, all he has to do is say the word, leaving the MC totally confused. Left all alone, the main guy figures the plaque only went crazy over the shoes, but here it's been totally chill. He completely drops his guard, completely oblivious to the 3 creatures sneaking up right behind him. Growling softly, this creepy green beast lunges straight for the MC, and right after that, a dark, shadowy hand grabs onto his shoulder. Feeling the grab, he whips around, and the tiger plaque suddenly lights up like a Christmas tree. The green dude backs up holding his chest, whining that the MC's energy burns way too hot. Without missing a beat, our guy charges right at him with the plaque in hand to get some payback. He hits the creature dead center and lets him know there's zero tolerance for bad vibes around here. Smirking, he thinks to himself that punching ghosts feels like hitting cotton candy, but man is it addictive. Then he spots some wet footprints and asks if the creepy dude is trying to make a run for it. Chasing after the monster, our boy yells that he's not letting him off the hook that easy. The monster trips and begs him to stop, warning him that this is his turf. But our MC freezes up when he sees the other 2 spirits just chilling and sipping on some Coca-Cola. After seeing that, he goes right back to laying the smackdown on the green dude, who starts screaming for help. But the skeleton warns everyone to stay out of it since our guy's energy is just totally overpowered. With glowing red eyes, our boy realizes there's way more shady stuff hiding in the shadows. He smashes the soda bottle, making the ghost lady totally beg for mercy. The three of them huddle together crying, and our MC tells him to knock off all that racket. Sitting there, he figures out that they're just harmless souls who wouldn't hurt a fly. But he realizes the plaque only shows their outlines, and he's dreading bumping into some actual hardcore evil. Out of nowhere, a message pops into his head about a stash of spiritual weapons. Caught off guard, he wonders if the plaque can also be used to bust whatever ghosts show up. The artifact explains that there are 5 different ways to unlock his spirit vision right then and there. The first method takes ox tears, but our guy thinks that's way too pricey and shuts it down instantly. The second one calls for brewing a tea out of crow eyes, which completely turns his stomach. Just picturing that nasty brew makes our boy feel physically sick. Grossed out, he yells that it's awful and begs to just skip to the next option. The fourth one sounds super sketchy too, so he complains, looking for a much safer route. So he circles back to the third choice, wiping willow leaves with morning dew on his eyes. Seeing how easy that is, he cracks a smile and decides that's the winner. He figures he just got tough luck attracting ghosts, but he wants to see them clearly so he knows exactly which way to run. With everything set up, he lets the spirits know he only needs one yin object to make the ritual work. Right then, 2 paper dolls sneak up to the bowl, totally dying of curiosity. He grabs one of them and makes it crystal clear he isn't crazy enough to toss those dolls in there. He stares down the 3 terrified ghosts and tells them it's their time to shine. But when he sees what they actually brought over, our boy is left completely speechless, holding up a bottle of stinky poison. He complains that there's no way he can use this junk. Then he picks up a dagger and asks the skeleton if it belongs to him, and the bony guy nods, deciding to go with a weapon. All he has to do now is wait for the clock to strike midnight. Before heading out, he tells the ghosts to keep it down and not to trash the museum. Meanwhile, the sun goes down and darkness completely swallows up the city. Close to home, he spots a woman crying her eyes out over losing her daughter, Yan Yan. He walks up to a guy and asks what went down, but the dude thinks it's wild that he's so out of the loop. The guy explains that the little girl was taken out in a really brutal way, leaving our MC absolutely shook. Seeing the red shoes straight out of his nightmares, he decides to mind his own business and heads back to the museum. Back in the courtyard, our boy lets out a huge cheer, hyping up that the plan actually worked. The 3 ghosts are totally clueless and ask if he's lost his marbles. With the leaf on his eye, he laughs and celebrates the fact that he can finally see the spirits. The green dude assumes he still can't hear them, while the ghost lady complains about her arm hurting. The MC explains that he can hear everything now, and the skeleton realizes he was just playing dumb this whole time. Then our guy points out that the little sister who tagged along with him is being awfully quiet too. Right on cue, the ghost bride floats up right behind him, and our boy's blood runs ice cold. Freaking out, he realizes the owner of those red shoes actually stalked him all the way there. Totally oblivious to the danger, the green dude walks right up to her to ask where she came from. In a flash, the bride's hair turns into creepy tentacles, and our guy screams at him to get the heck out of Dodge. The green dude's eyes pop out of his head, completely frozen in pure terror. In a split second, his body gets totally jabbed and wrapped up by the bride's crazy hair. The ghost even complains that she fights dirty while he gets wrapped up alive like a burrito. He gets hoisted into the air, squirming in pain and tied up tight. The MC yells that the water spirit is getting mutated into an absolute monster. He knows he's got to make a move right now, or he's gonna end up with 2 enemies on his case. The spooky chick opens her arms and her hair sweeps forward like a massive dark storm cloud. Holding up the tiger plaque, our guy demands the artifact step up and show what it's made of. Instantly, the glowing image of a golden tiger pops out, giving off an insane amount of energy. A huge blast of light hits the bride dead on and sends the ghost flying across the room. Taking advantage of the opening, he uses the dagger to slice the hair and bust the green dude loose. The water ghost crashes to the floor, totally beat up and knocked out cold. The other 2 spirits rush over to help their buddy, begging him not to fade away on them. Feeling his body weigh a ton, the MC realizes the bride has seriously leveled up. He hears footsteps, turns around and sees the bride walking his way, super slow and creepy. She lifts her head and reveals a completely twisted jump scare of a face. Our guy knows things just went from bad to worse and braces himself for the hit. He yells at the ghost, asking if no one ever taught her any manners. The bride answers back with a straight-up screech of rage and starts whipping her hair around. Backing up, he realizes there is absolutely no reasoning with someone this crazy. With all that hair swarming right at him, he decides it's time to throw down for real. Summoning the tiger, our MC swears he's gonna find a way to put this bride in her place. But out of nowhere, a massive lightning bolt strikes the roof and a crazy thunderstorm unleashes. The thunder scares the living daylights out of our guy, leaving him totally confused about what just went down. Looking up at the sky, he's super baffled by the freakish change in the weather. The bride vanishes into the smoke, leaving him wondering if she actually just threw in the towel. The other ghosts think our MC managed to scare the crazy lady off with just his big mouth, but the skeleton smacks them upside the head, letting them know it was actually the thunder that sent her running. Completely wiped out, our boy feels like someone just completely pulled his plug. He passes out right on the spot, and the three ghosts sprint over in a total panic to help him out. When he finally opens his eyes, our MC is already lying safe and sound in his own bed, breathing a huge sigh of relief. The ghost lady tells him he practically gave them all a heart attack. The MC asks about their green buddy and hears that the dude is already bouncing back. Right then, the tiger plaque starts glowing super bright in our boy's hand. A message pops up saying he earned some merit and just unlocked a brand new power. The text breaks down something about divine generals and this so-called purification method. Staring at his own hand, he realizes he's got a pretty sick new trick up his sleeve now. He notices a talisman meant for dominating and tapping into the powers of other spirits. Our guy figures out that if he can talk this crew into it, he'll have a solid backup squad against evil. Suddenly, he realizes he's sitting there all by himself and starts looking around for the ghosts. He peeks around the room, super confused by the gang's sudden disappearing act. But when he comes face to face with those red shoes right next to his bed, he goes into full panic mode. Later on, he finds out that one of them bit the dust while fishing and the other accidentally took the wrong meds. Mind blown, our MC thinks the way these guys went out was just way too random. He thinks back to the psycho bride and realizes that being good at fishing or painting won't do jack in a real brawl. So, he looks straight at the armored skeleton and asks him what his whole backstory is. The warrior tells him he was an ancient soldier, but he doesn't even remember his own name anymore. Our guy is shook and asks if the dude belonged to the legendary Chi army. Blown away, he realizes this bony dude is carrying centuries of crazy history on his back. But when asked if he actually knows how to fight, the soldier totally admits he only knows the basics. The MC cracks a relieved smile, thinking he finally found a spirit actually good enough to throw down with. He asks the soldier for a solid, and the guy instantly agrees to serve our boy with total humility. Then, he makes a hand sign, and a golden energy starts swirling around, getting the spell ready. The MC touches the skeleton's forehead and shouts the command to seal the deal once and for all. Feeling that the magic kicked in, he notices the soldier's soul glowing green in his right hand. With a cocky little smirk, he stares at his fist wrapped in a bluish aura. The spirit asks for his orders, and the main guy decides it's time to get some payback on the enemy. Blown away by the scene, the other two ghosts praise our boy's guts. Feeling totally full of himself, our guy says their first mission is to report the whole thing to the cops. The spirits are left looking completely dumbfounded, wondering if the kid has totally lost his marbles. Outside, he spots the shoes and pieces together that the victim lost them before getting attacked. Looking at a creepy tree, he figures out that the dream world is real and acts like a cage to keep the evil locked away. He decides to take the shoes and try to talk the cops into tracking down where that thing came from. And just like that, the sun comes up with a crystal clear sky and barely a cloud in sight. The MC rolls up to the police station and immediately announces he wants to file a report. A cop asks what happened, and the kid just blurts out that there's a ghost trying to take him out. The cop goes into total shock hearing that kind of crazy talk. The MC lets out a sigh, realizing it's not going to be a walk in the park to get anyone to believe this story. Right then, a woman shows up and tells the rookie to kick rocks because she's taking over the case. The officer salutes and confirms he got the message loud and clear right away. Right after, the woman tells our boy to follow her, and he takes her up on the offer. Once inside a room, she grabs a lighter and lights up a cigarette. Sitting at the desk, she introduces herself as Joe Yi from the Special Ops team. Next, she asks if the kid minds the secondhand smoke. He says he's cool with it, and the investigator dives right into asking about this so-called ghost. While he spills the beans about the dream, she starts suspecting the MC is some sort of undercover pro. Looking over his file, she notices the kid used to live in a spot with some seriously bad vibes. She figures that's what triggered the nightmare, but doesn't rule out that the threat could be real and dangerous. Feeling awkward with a silence, the MC wonders why she won't stop staring at him. Joe asks if, besides this dream, he's got any other clues actually worth a damn. She warns him that without proof, they'll have to find another way to figure out what the deal is. Our guy plops a box on the table and the woman is dying to know what's inside. He hopes she's a real pro, otherwise she's the one who's going to be having nightmares tonight. Opening the box and seeing the shoes, Jo-yi is completely stunned. She remembers that the victim's shoes went missing and wonders how the seal could have failed. She realizes the spirit is high level and wants to figure out what this thing is after. Just then, two guys walk into the precinct announcing that the dynamic duo is back. They introduce themselves as Zhao and Dao, both hailing from that Wyming sect. Joe explains they're part of the team, and the MC instantly catches on to what's happening. The guy with glasses asks the kid to describe the courtyard from the dream in as much detail as possible. But our MC says there's no need and hands them a ready-made drawing right on the spot. Seeing the artwork, Agent Dao is left completely mind-blown. His buddies ask what's gotten into him, wanting to know if he stumbled onto some secret. Freaking out, Dao yells that the kid's sketch puts us to shame 1,000 times over. With a smug little grin, our boy just confirms the obvious. He explains that the drawing was done by a ghost he put to work. He asks if their interest in the place is so they can go kick the evil spirit's butt. Jo-yi walks up, gives him a little pat on the shoulder, and praises the kid's street smarts. She explains that heavy-hitting ghosts are born from nasty feelings tied to a specific place. And with that, the investigator lights up another smoke. Touching his chin, she warns him that this combo creates a seriously wicked entity. Right after she slowly blows out her cigarette smoke. The real deal is that facing these vengeful ghosts head-on is basically asking for a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The smoke forms a skeletal face, and the MC realizes she's definitely not your average Joe. Joe reveals that by finding the root of the hatred, they can weaken the evil and shut the whole thing down. She explains that these spirits suffer so much that passing away itself seems like a walk in the park. Because of that, the wise folks say that destroying these souls is actually an act of transcendence. Then Agent Dao finds their target, an old opera house over in Jiangnan. Looking fiercely determined, the captain orders everyone to head out to Jiangnan right this second. Dao confirms the order without batting an eye. She dismisses the MC since he's a civilian. But she gets the feeling the kid is hiding some major secret. Our boy tries to come up with an excuse, but gets cut off instantly. Dao hands over some protection talismans and tells the kid he'd only be dead weight anyway. The MC questions if this paper actually works, seeing as the spirit completely ignored the other seals before. He hands the papers back, and the agent gets super ticked off at the disrespect toward his work. Zhao hands over a non-disclosure agreement and says he can bounce as soon as he signs it. But the second the agents walk out, our boy yells for them to hold up. Suddenly, some creepy green smoke starts seeping into the room. The MC is totally shocked seeing the fog swallow up the entire hallway. Realizing things just went south, he gets scared of what's coming next. The smoke wraps completely around him and drags him straight into the darkness. In the blink of an eye, he pops up somewhere else, surrounded by a whole army of ghosts. He realizes he's back in the dream but finds it weird just how many people are crowded in there. Right then, a voice whispers that he's back, and the MC spins around, scared out of his mind. Panicking, he screams for the talisman his bride left him, except the ghost shows up looking like a total monster, telling him he's never leaving this place. She grabs him from behind and digs her claws into his stomach, making the MC scream in pain. The kid yells while the whole dream world starts crumbling to pieces. He wakes up panting in the real world and sees Dao's amulets catching fire and vanishing. Relieved, he figures out that those pieces of paper are what saved his hide, but he notices his shirt is torn at the chest and realizes the attack in the dream actually carried over to the real world. The skeleton general shows up, and the main guy decides he can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. Determined, he decides to head home, change his clothes, and make a beeline straight for Jiangnan. A few days later, in a Jiangnan courtyard, an old man is singing about a lucky day. Sitting in his chair, the old guy keeps on singing about red makeup. Sensing a presence, the elderly man looks over, totally curious. The MC shows up and introduces himself, saying he just came to ask a few questions. The old man mentions that it's rare to get visitors around there after so much time. Our boy steps closer and asks if anyone else has shown up lately. The gentleman replies that his friends have already passed away and the younger crowd never really shows their faces anymore. The MC looks a little taken aback by the old man's answer. Staring at his face, the MC starts to get suspicious about who this guy really is. The old man asks what he's carrying on his back, and the MC lies, claiming he's a musician. But in reality, it's a museum sword that he stashed inside a music case. The image shows the blade camouflaged so he wouldn't get any heat from security. The old man mentions that some young folks stopped by yesterday but didn't even make it past the gate. The MC realizes it was Joe's team and confirms he's definitely in the right spot, but he wonders why top-tier pros didn't even set foot inside. All of a sudden, he goes on high alert. A creepy green energy sprouts from the tree, and he wonders what the heck that is. He notices that the tree right smack in the middle of the courtyard is the ultimate symbol of being locked up, and he realizes that a ghost hanging out underneath it perfectly spells out the word acacia. At that, our MC's jaw drops to the floor over what he just figured out. He realizes the old man has already kicked the bucket, which is exactly why Joe's squad didn't even bother going inside. So, the MC looks the spirit dead in the eye and says he's digging for info on someone. Curious, the old dude asks who exactly he's talking about. Our guy says he's searching for the top singer in Jiangnan, leaving the ghost totally caught off guard. The ghost wants to know how he knows her, and the MC smoothly drops that it was just destiny. Letting out a heavy sigh, the spirit says he might as well spill the beans before fading away for good. He explains that it all started way back in the Ming Dynasty, when a young girl showed up at the theater. By the time she was 16, Qi Niang blew up in popularity and started drawing in rich nobles from all over the place. The original game plan was for her to settle down later, but things took a turn when she found her true love. Back then, a bunch of pirates raided the town and demanded the finest women for their crew. On the day of the sacrifice, the townsfolk were literally begging on their knees, and our MC asks if she managed to make a run for it. The old man shakes his head and explains that she turned herself in willingly just to save everyone's neck. He mentions that once peace was restored, the ungrateful locals started talking trash and dragging her good name through the mud. Ticked off, he says they branded the poor girl as having zero morals just so they could feel better about themselves. That was the breaking point when the seventh daughter put on her wedding dress and jumped straight into a well. Fired up, the MC thinks to himself that human beings are absolute garbage no matter what era of history it is. The old guy says that the very second she jumped, it started snowing as a sign of the massive injustice. Suddenly, our guy gets totally confused when he realizes it's actually snowing for real outside. He wonders how on earth that's even possible. Right as a massive blast of green energy explodes from deep inside the well, the shockwave sends the MC flying and he yells out, realizing that she's right there.